Hey guys, Steve from Exclusive Wraps. Welcome back to another one of our installation videos. Today we're installing a full Flow Designs kit onto the i30N hatch pre-facelift. There we go. Front extension, side splitter, front winglets, rear diffuser, fins, rear diffuser, side skirt winglets. All right, all this back in here for now. Alrighty guys, so to install the side splitters on the i30N pre-facelift, what you're gonna need is the supplied Flow Designs jacknut installation tool, an 8mm or thereabouts drill bit, an 11mm drill bit, 4mm Allen key or similar Torx bit, and a 10mm, whether it be a ratchet spanner, socket wrench, or a drill bit for it. Alright guys, now we have all our tools. First thing is we need to get the car in the air. Okay, next step, we're going to take the template that was supplied and you're going to align this with the jacking point cut out underneath the side skirt. Ensure that the front text is pointing toward the front of your vehicle. So on the passenger side, it's going to sit this way. On the driver's side, it's going to sit this way. Now that we've aligned our template with the underside of the skirt, we can pre-drill the hole with an 8mm bit. Next, we want to switch over to our 11mm drill bit, make the hole a little bit larger, and put in the first jack nut. Next, take your first jack nut and insert it into the hole. It should be a fairly tight fit to begin with. All right, with the jack nut in the side skirt, we're going to take our 10mm socket, stick it on our drill, and our Flow jack nut fastening compression tool. You want to take the supplied the supplied bolt and washer, insert it this way so that the Flow logo is facing down when you're underneath the vehicle. And you want to insert that into the jack nut. Just by hand to begin with, give it a little wiggle and you should be able to start tightening it up. All right, once that's hand tight, grab your drill bit, hold it steady and drill away. There we go, only to the point where it just becomes tight, then you can back it off and undo the bolt. And you can see here, that jack nut is firmly compressed and fastened in place. Next up, you want to grab your side skirt. If you have something like some little boxes or jack stands, they are ideal to help you hold this in place so that it's not flexing and flopping all over the joint. Put those in place and get that first bolt through the jack nut that we just installed. Now this one doesn't need to be completely tightened because you're going to remove the side skirt again in a few minutes. Now that we've installed the first bolt, it's easier if you can grab a friend, get them to help you hold this up in line with the body and pre-drill all of the remaining holes. All right guys, now that we've pre-drilled all the holes with the 8mm bit, we're going to take out the first bolt we installed and remove the side skirt. We're going to take our 11mm drill bit and widen those holes a little bit more so that we can fit the jack nuts in. Now that we've drilled all the holes, time to install the jack nuts. Now that the jack nuts are in place, we use the Flow Designs jack nut compression tool and our 10mm drill bit to tighten them up. Alrighty, now that all the jack nuts are compressed and holding nice and tight in the side skirt, we can take the Flow splitter or Flow side skirt, whatever you would like to call it, and sit it on our boxes or jacks or whatever you've got that can help you, or get your friend to come and hold it, and insert the bolt and washer combos to hold it in place. I always suggest never fully tightening all of your bolts. You want to have a little bit of play in them. Once you've got them all in, then you can go back and tighten them all up. We always suggest hand tightening for the last little bit because you don't want to over tighten the bolts. Oh my God.
Yeah, actually.
All right, now the side skirt's on. If you have optioned the, what do we call them? Winglets as well, you can take the supplied bolts, take your winglet, you can see you've got a lot of room for adjustment there, and insert them into the riv nuts that are already in the side skirt. Now these are very short bolts, so they don't take a lot to tighten them up. There we go. Now if you leave them loose, you can adjust if you want them to sit nice and wide like that, or nice and tight. And that, guys, is the side skirts installed. Let's move on to the next part. All right, guys, to install the rear spats, you're gonna need an assortment of screwdrivers, ideally a couple of flat ones of different sizes, a right angle tool if you have one with a Phillips head, and an 8mm drill bit. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove a couple of the clips and maybe one screw in here that hold in the rear mud flap. Beware, lots of rocks and things are gonna fall out at you. Just so you can see, guys, we removed this Phillips head screw from the splash guard and these two push clips that sit just under here, 1 and 2. All right, so the rear spat follows this body line under here. So what you're gonna do is take it and put it in place so that it lines up on both your exhaust side and the wheel arch side. Hold that in place, get yourself a pencil or a pen or something, and mark the locations of the holes so that you can pre-drill them. Now that you've got the locations of your holes marked, take your 8mm drill bit and pre-drill the holes. Now that we've pre-drilled the holes, set up your nut and bolt and washer combos, taking note that 2 out of the 6 are longer than the rest. Those ones are to go through the spaces that are on the exhaust side of your spat. Now, if you purchase the optional winglets for the rear spats, install these using the bolts that hold your spats in place. There we go. Before you tighten them up, decide how far out you would like your winglets to sit or on what angle. Tighten the bolts and you're ready to go. And that concludes the rear spats. Now on to the flow lock diffuser. Next up, guys, we're installing the rear flow lock diffuser and fins onto the i30N. So what you're gonna need is your 8mm drill bit, either your 4mm Allen key or similar size Torx bit, a plastic trim removal tool, 10mm ratchet spanner or similar, and a pencil to mark hole locations. Alrighty, guys, first step is a little bit different to most of the other flow lock diffusers we've installed. In this instance, we're going to install all of the fins before we go drilling any holes into the rear bumper. Now, to do this, each of the slots are marked L4, L3, L2, L1, R1, R2, R3, R4, and the fins are also marked with the corresponding letter and number combination. Be sure to put them in the right spot because they can be quite difficult to remove once they're in place. All right, guys, once all the fins are installed, you can simply align it with the fins on the existing diffuser, like so, making sure that the flow locks, or the spaces rather, are in line with the fins that are there, and that it is nicely tucked in and held in place. From here, we can go ahead and take our 8mm drill bit, pre-drill the 4 holes along the back, and get that fastened. And then you simply tighten up the bolts and you're done. Is that hole really? All right, guys, next up, we're going to install the front splitter, front extensions, and winglets. The first step to installing the front splitter is removing the OEM weather strip. To do this, you have 2 clips on this side, 2 clips on the other side, and simply pry it away. Next up, we're going to drop this front under tray, which is going to be done by removing a couple of 10mm bolts along there and a couple of clips on either that run along these edges here and across the front edge as well. Next, with the help of a friend ideally, we're going to lift the lip up and put the 2 bolts that need to go through these holes, through the factory front bumper holes, and fasten them with a nut and a washer. Now take your 10mm ratchet spanner or similar and your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit and tighten up the end ones. Next, take your 8mm drill bit and drill pilot holes for the bolts that go on this side and the other side, leaving the 4 in the middle remaining. Now guys, if you've optioned the front extensions for your splitter, they will come with a couple of Chicago bolts that have to go into the 2 holes, one on either side, right there. You want to put these in before you go and fasten the center, because once you've done that, it's going to be very tight. It's going to be very difficult to get an Allen key in there to hold it in place to tighten them up. Next up, we're going to install the reinforcement brackets. Left, obviously, on the left side, right on the right side. You want to slide this into the bumper and over that front section of the bumper there, where you can see all those clips. And then align this with the spaces that are underneath the front lip here, so that the holes are going to match up. From here, you're going to want to drill another couple of 8mm holes for these 4 across the front, and then use the nut and bolt combination to hold the lip in place. I'll also mention, make sure you slide this bracket all the way forward so it's got a good grip on the front of the front bumper before you tighten up the bolts. Now, if you've optioned the extensions and winglets, all winglets I should say, first thing you want to do is lay out all the the bolts and washers that came with your kit. Because if you've ordered both the extensions and the winglets, you're going to have a whole bunch of spares. So what you want to do, the Chicago bolt that we installed here came with a smaller bolt and a washer. That's for the end here. There'll be a couple of longer bolts. There should be 2 for either side. They're going to go at the back section if you're using the winglets as well, because you've got this extra thickness. This bolt needs to go through both the winglet, the extension, and then into the splitter. And then the remaining 2 bolts on either side are going to be the shorter ones from the pack. So you're going to have 2 for either side, and then you'll probably be left with about 3 spare shorter ones, give or take, and a couple from the winglets themselves, which you don't need to use because you've got the ones from the extensions. Now, before you tighten these all up, remember, you have a heap of play in these wings and extensions, so you can slide it out or reposition it, push it back in. That's entirely up to you. Finally, reinstall your undertray and your front splitter is complete.